enjoying yourself. Let's tune that out slightly here. Dude, it got red morning. Hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. I'm liking, honestly, I've finally got the hair where I want it. I know it's got nothing to do with nothing, but yeah. Probably about time to shave my head then. Anyways, it's going to be an awesome show. I think you guys are going to like it. We got a good topic. There's so many good things happening right now. Is he really going to do updates? Yes, he's really going to do updates, but I guarantee you it's worth it. It's worth it. Howdy. It's Christmas, man. Well, almost. What's the date today? The 17th. That means next week and Sunday. Look at that. Does this mean that Rollo might skip his Sunday 4-hour live stream, or are we getting Christmas hypergamy? We'll have to find out. I've heard some bad news. He's not going to be here today. Some stuff happened. Doggo issues, so hopefully he talks about it a bit later. It really sucks, but he sends his best to you guys anyway. I've got good news. Good news from my side. I am staring at this goddamn book right now, and it's done. There is a summary and an introduction that Nick has to send me back some edits, but it's like less than 1,000 words. So there's nothing to it. And then the dedication is finished. There's a forward. I've asked Rollo to, but it should be able to get done by the time I get the desktop publishing done. And then the thing is out. So you guys can enjoy your Christmas with a nice, healthy dose of Praxeology Volume 1 Frame. And that's kind of where the topic's going now, because I don't have any guests scheduled till after the Christmas season, and I have to go work on some of those. So in the meantime, I thought, why don't we give you some actionable advice? And you're like, actionable? That's weird. Don't you want me to just kick a girl off a podcast? It's like, yeah, I could. Don't you want to invite girls to the sphere? Yeah, I could. Don't you want to Mano Swamp, blah, blah, blah? Nah, Rich was right, but that's not us. That's not us. I have a few topics. Let me see here. Why you're lost, sex and violence, truth v fitness, you exist for you, the value tetrahedron, women act as shitty as you let them, and religion may have been good for society, but it was bad for men. So depending on the time, I have a feeling we're not going to be able to get through all of it. At least the first 5, though. At least the first 5. Hey, we got Tommy, Doug, and everybody in here. It's good to see. Who knows? Maybe somebody will sneak in here later on. We always get some fancy guests in the chat. You guys are always surprised when like Ali or Rollo or John or Krigler, or any of them show up, but it's worth it. So the first one is why you're lost. We got 5-minute mark to make it there. Fun fact on this, by the way, now that we're talking about it, is like there was never meant. I was talking with Nick on this, and I realized like I never wanted to write a book on frame. There wasn't actually a point to it. The book was originally on the concept of dread game, which if you guys have never heard of dread game, this is, depending on who you ask, I think the best definition I heard is where a man is teaching himself not to be taken for granted, or a branch swing, which is an old MGTOW term that means, when a girl leaves a man, she always gets another man first. Like, don't let go of that branch before you grab the other one. But with an olive branch. So it's like there's a bunch of different ways depending on what perspective you're coming at it from to describe it. And in order to describe that, you can't just be like, whatever, make yourself attractive, sleep with some other girl, ditch this one and move on, because we found that out. There was a user, I am Steve McQueen, and what he ended up doing was ditching his chick. That's it. He's like, I'm done with you. Moving on. Find himself a new girl. It's like, oh my God, this girl is amazing. She's nothing like my soon-to-be ex-wife. She's smart. She's funny. She's younger. She's hotter. Blah, 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 blah. And we're like, dude, like, you do you, but I'll let you know right now. Like, these are some skills you probably want to work on. So what happens? A couple months later, he's like, it's weird. This chick I was dating seemed great. Kind of starting to act like my ex. And we're like, geez, I wonder. But we're going to get into that and the women act as shitties, you let them part for the more so. And then the book got like insanely big. It got to be the size of like Sanction. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not releasing a goddamn Sanction. Heck with that. And so I'm like, all right, let's split it up into 2. Let's put like a preamble and then like the dread proper. So frame was almost like an afterthought. But then as I got into it, I realized this is like, I sometimes underestimate how much growth me and a lot of the other guys have had in the last 10 years to get there, right? And just the idea that, and I was like, when I have to explain people frame, I couldn't give a definition. I couldn't point them in a direction of it. I realized like This is basically 10 years and thousands of random things, from comments to posts to blogs to videos to everything. And half of it is gone now. The internet is dead. Links are rotted out. Posts are deleted, stuff like that. And so I'm like, all right, at this point, I'm kind of enjoying it because it's, and I hate that I'm going to have to market it as a self-improvement thing. It feels like my Mark Manson's models pivot, or how to give a fuck, or whatever he calls it. And I'm like, it fits there marketing wise, but it's not that kind of book because there's no improvement on it. I don't like that when people say improvement, because it means there is like a scale from 0 to 100. And somewhere on this scale, you're like 76%, man, but you can get to 77 if you do like 3 more workouts or something, as if there's a singular path to it. And that's not the case at all. And I think this is why every self improvement, anything you see, is always horseshit, because they always assume there's a singular path to success and that it's a health bar, it's an experience bar. And it's like, it's not the case. There's just infinite branches of various utility depending on the goals you want. And the goal isn't to maximize anything, as much as the autists want to tell you they want to min-max life. The goal is to chart a path through it. So if anything, it's not so much an experience bar as it is a choose your own adventure, you know? Which pathway do you want to take that'll get you where you want to be? Well, what do you want? Well, that's for you to decide. And that's why I got this next part here, why you're lost. It was probably my, not my, I mean, I didn't do it. Originally, it was one of the other moderators from the Married Red Pill, guy who was around longer than me. He's probably in his 50s now. And he realized a lot of guys kept asking, like, and there was like a very common idea of any guy having problems in his marriage or his relationship or his life in general. He had no context, no ability to categorize it based on importance. So he would just puke his entire life on your lap, his entire life. Here's all the details. Everything had happened from when I was born till now. Here's what my mom did. Here's what my dad did. Here's what the girlfriend did. Here's what happened last Tuesday. Went, bought groceries. I bought pork ribs. And then he dumps it on your lap. He goes, now what do I do with this? And there was hundreds of these. Like, everybody kept asking. And the problem is, at first, everybody just took it at face value. Okay, he wants to know what to do with this. And then the guy would take whatever his charted pathway was and apply it to the other guy's life, saying, okay, well, you know, I'm working as an entrepreneur, so you got to do this entrepreneur thing. And you kind of see that. You see that on YouTube too, right? Where, like, if you ask Rich Cooper, what do you do with your life career-wise? He will tell you to be an entrepreneur. MLD John will tell you to move to a different country, preferably Southeast Asia. And he will tell you to, like, make courses, help men, that kind of thing. You talk to, I mean, let's use a bad example. I hate good examples because everybody assumes it's shit talking. Yeah. Oh, exactly. Victim pukes. Well, the Catholic confession. That's the other part of it. Pat Stedman will tell you to find Jesus and cheerlead Trump. Everybody basically, when they're giving you life advice of what to do with your life, they're not actually doing that. What they're doing is they're articulating their own life, and they want you to follow the same footpath as sort of a form of validation, right? If I cut my way through the jungle and I got the perfect path, so you need to follow this path, otherwise you're not a real man. Heck, you even see like tweets of it, and they're so weird. There's this one, I don't even know who the guy is. Somebody pointed out he's some like Manosphere one. He was gonna hire Fresh, but then didn't. And so he started the Fresh and Fit podcast. And so in that respect, a lot of people hate him already, but he's like, if you don't earn 400,000, then you're a horrible man and a shitty father. And I'm like, find me somebody that earns 425,000 without telling me you found somebody that earns 425,000. That's literally it. Take whatever his paycheck was, 10% lower. If you're not earning at least this, you're such a waste. If you're not, and it's like Tater Boy does the same thing. It's like, if you're not a 6'4" kickboxer with a Bugatti, like, you're just a failure. It's funny how that works, isn't it? If you're not exactly like me, you're a beta male. You're a beta male. And I'm just like, Good mic technique. Am I blowing the thing? Thank you very much, Slater, I think, unless that's a dig, in which case, shut up. Oh yeah, so we actually had to get to a certain point where one of the guys had to flat out just put out, it was a great little story of like, you don't want us answering that. And it was so many guys just asking, what do I do with my life? And it eventually turned into the answer, well, what do you want? Like, wave a magic wand. If you could snap your fingers tomorrow, what would your life look like that it doesn't look like today? With the exception, or with the caveat that you can't make anybody else do anything. I can't make my wife have. You can't make your wife have sex with you. You can't make your dad love you. You can't make your boss promote you. I mean, they're somewhat under your control. What do you do with your life if nobody else is going to meet any expectations? And I swear to God, I have personally, and I'm not the guy who's asked it the most, but I have personally asked this about 100 times. I have never, ever gotten an answer. It's always a deflection and then off to the next topic. Ever. Oh, everybody does. Yeah, well, I know for mics, you're supposed to have, like, this is your range. A lot of people leave the mic condom on too because it kind of dictates it. But it mostly for me, it's because I see the EQ right in front of me, and so I try to keep that thing in the yellow as much as possible and out of the red. So, anyways, back to this. Yeah, so everybody, they just want a reason to live. Like, what do I do? What do I do with my life? What do I do with this? What should I want? What should I value? And then you realize it's like, I hate to say this, but I swear to God, that the more time you spend in any kind of like self-improvement space, the more you start to believe in genetic what's the one? Genetic for crying out loud. The Germans found it out. Determinism. Genetic determinism, that's the one. Like, maybe these guys are just made to be drone bees. Maybe like there's some kind of mental, physical, genetic aspect that prevents them from being any more than people with trench foot. You know what I mean? Well, eugenics is how you get them there. But I'm pretty sure no girl wants to, like, you know what I want? I want my son to be a good plow horse. Like, no chick thinks like that unless they hate their dad and their husband, in which case they're like, I'm going to make you better than the both of them by making you worse. You're like, thanks, Mom. But by the way, who's Roger Tomarso, and do I need to meet him? Anyway, so it all kind of culminated in why you're lost. And it was the idea that, and it threw a lot of people off. At the very beginning of it, it gave an Anne Rind comment about the 3 questions, right? Like, where I am, how do I know it, and what should I do? And where I am is self-evident. You know where you are. You just have to look around, right? And then how do I know that? And it's self-evident because you're there and you have a head on your shoulders. But then what should I do? Nobody has the answer to that. And nobody has the answer to that. Nobody younger than you has the answer to that. Nobody older than you has the answer to that. Nobody. Oh, yeah, Christopher, don't worry. I'm not saying genetic determinism is real. I'm not. I'm just saying it sure as hell makes a compelling case when you hear a bunch of guys that, no, I want to have the boot on my neck. And you're like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Good luck. Oh, Jesus, Chesty. Yeah, no. Heaven forbid, I do not want to end up as Molyneux. That's why I make sure there's always color on the background. Just sitting here staring at a white wall, ranting about the they. I was like, nah, it's not for me. Keep your egg carton, sir. I'm good to go. Where was I going with this one? Oh, yeah, the what should you do? And you realize a lot of guys have never had a selfish thought in their life. Even selfish guys. You think of all those like selfish chads who sleep with everybody. They'll sleep with your wife and not even care and all this. They don't think about that either. They're just running off of impulse. I want to have sex. She's cute. Sounds good. I want to rob that guy, so I rob that guy. So that's good. And everybody's just living their life based on a set of like impulses. So that's really the difference here. You got a bunch of guys who are not self-interested at all, either thugs or simps. How do I make myself the best man ever for any woman that wants to have me? And how do I make myself look like the best plow horse versus I'm just going to do what I want because I have like the ego of a 2-year-old. And I'm here to tell you there's a better way. There really is. I mean, what is better? It's better. You're happier. You're more sustainably, whatever. Happier. Just go with me on this one. If I have to explain what happiness is, then maybe you don't deserve it. I'm having a brain fart morning. Praxeology looks maxing. Yeah, belief, outsourcing, frame. Absolutely. So what should I do? And then the question of that is, well, what do you want to do? Or the answer to that is the question, what do you want to do? And then that guy realizes that just such a simple question, what do you want out of this, requires like a complete reworking of your entire worldview. And like, holy geez, do you mean like an ideology? It's like, no, no, no. It's not an ideology. It's a praxeology. And I know you guys keep hearing the difference and you're like, well, that's a different word. So it must be different. But I don't know if a lot of you guys truly know the difference. Doug Chisholm, sir, $99, 99 cent super chat. You know what I'm going to do? I usually keep the chat off of these ones so I can just in case I want to make clips, but heck with it. I think the least we can do is show off these beautiful, beautiful audience. Let's put you here, put you there. I consulted Ryan, Victim Puke. He gave an honest, non-judgmental information, asked me hard questions, and I went to work. Men, take a hard look at yourself, answer what you want or don't want, make a plan, practice, adjust. I learned more than how female nature works. Oh yeah, dude. Thank you, by the way, for the super chats. Very kind. That's like, I will say this, Doug, and I hope you don't mind me talking out of class here, but you were one of the few guys that didn't cry. And I don't mean this as like a slight or an alpha male thing, but it's like a lot of guys, when you expose them, I don't even want to say to red pill truth or any shit like that. It's just, they realize that they're in a horrible situation, but your ego always hides it from you, right? You're always like, oh, well, she's a good mother, but, or, you know, I should know what I want. You kind of hand wave it away. But when you have to articulate it, for a lot of guys, that's psychologically like a punch in the neck. So yeah, the fact that you kind of took it with a stiff upper lip was pretty impressive. But I'm glad you're there now, man. Yeah, make a plan, practice, adjust. But so there's a whole bunch of underlying thing as to why you're lost. And I don't even know if this is true, but I know it's a useful model to picture as if it's like good enough. Good enough is better. It's as good enough as true can get. What the hell is that? I like to think that organizations that were kind of male-centric existed to help men get this kind of, and one of the religious people call it like spiritual maturity or whatever. Thank you very much, Sarah. Yeah, spiritual maturity, right? Like your pastor or your priest would tell you about, this is what a key to a good life is. Believe in this, believe in that. And then you're like, okay, you do these things, you have some kind of fulfillment, you live a healthy life. Boy Scouts was literally created. By the way, did you know that Boy Scouts has a bit of an Austrian painter thing to it too? After the first, Christopher Hitchens, of all people, wrote an article on the fascist upbringing of the Boy Scouts. And it was right after the First World War. The Germans and the Americans both came up with a program to raise boys to be men. And that was literally the Boy Scouts on their side of things. And then it was the Hitler Youth for the other side of things. And the idea is you're supposed to teach men all these things. It was kind of neat. And it had some utility. Like a lot of things, like I lump it in with the Volkswagen Bug, where, hey, that's a pretty good car. It's very fuel efficient, economical to make, really good from an assembly plant standpoint. Really horrible cheerleaders. Really horrible cheerleaders. Yeah, so you have all these organizations that existed, and they all helped men with their spiritual maturity, for lack of a better word, and they kind of slowly got whittled away. You know, there hasn't really been a big war, and women were, you know, women are voting now. Of course, women basically got the vote 10 years before. Oh, I got to check the numbers on this. I don't want to get nuked for misinformation. You know what? I'm just going to put a caveat here. I know my numbers are slightly off, but the general principle is close enough. You know how women's suffrage, they always talk about, yeah, women got the vote, we fought, and now we get what men do. If you look up 3 different events, universal suffrage, in other words, non-landowning men getting the vote, black suffrage, like after slavery, when were black people allowed to vote, and female suffrage, they're all in the same 20-year period. And I'm pretty sure women came first, but I'm going to have to check on this one. So how funny is that? You fought a civil war, destroyed slavery, and even then, brothers had to fight 20 more years to get the vote. Meanwhile, women just walked into it, bombed a couple churches and some speakeasies, got the vote. They were so happy, like, now what do you want to vote for? Let's close the pub. And then guys were like, that's it, we're going to World War II. I'm done with this. Or no, World War I? Which war was the Prohibition one? No. Yeah, because it was like in the 20s. Oh yeah, so World War II. World War II. I get there. It takes me a minute. So what's the point of all this stuff? It's just, yeah, it's everybody's just riding the coattails of success. So back to what you want out of life. So then you got to realize that all of these organizations were slowly being whittled away because everybody is nice and kind and progressive and civilized. So what do you do when you're civilized? Well, the same thing you did with voting. Well, come on in, guys. We don't need to have. We can lessen the gatekeeping a little bit. We need more men in here. Or hey, we're we're not evil, horrible people. Let's bring some girls in here. You know, the people are the same. Men and women are the same. B.F. Skinner took like 40 years to prove a lot of his stuff wrong, which really sucks. But in the meantime, we've done some horrible damage. Um, hey, what's going on, guys? Uh, yeah, so you get all these things, and then the problem is nobody really considered that men and women are different. They have different needs. They approach organizational hierarchies differently, and they have different aims. Men, on the other hand, tend to be parallel focused, right? If we're in a hunting group, the trick is to want to hunt. Anything you do that doesn't help with the hunting kind of annoys everybody else. And the best hunter tends to be the guy who leads the best hunting trips, right? When women join something, it's more like, how do I become the center of attention on this thing without appearing to be the center of attention? Let's make it a big tent. Let's bring as many people in as possible. Hey, you know, it's like girls, they pick you up on Tinder and then they bring you to their Instagram. It's like, are you just fishing for Instagram followers on Tinder? What the hell? That's how they think. It's not about the hunting trip. It's about being the coolest, most important person that everybody's talking about on the hunting trip without making it seem that way. Because if you look like you're too much of a pick me girl, then other girls use that to shoot you down. Now, with guys, you have a problem. There's a lot of switched on guys. Maybe they just want a couple hours away from their wives because they're like, I love her, but damn if I don't want to put her through the drywall. Shout out to Abu. And these guys are fine. They're like, whatever, it's just some pick me girl. Just here, don't scare the ducks with your makeup. But there's some guys who are like, man, I haven't gotten laid in 6 months. And so they see this, you know, mid girl. She's approachable. She's attainable. And she's like, hey, guys, ready to go duck hunting? And they realize, hey, I got a chance. Even if I don't sleep with her, all this good feeling I'm getting from her giving me good attention and smiling and batting her little eyes is great. And so they forget all about the hunting trip and they're focused on impressing the girl. And the girl's loving it. So it's like basically 3 people, 2 of them are ruining the hunting trip for the third guy. So the third guy gets annoyed and either has to boot everybody out and go hunting by himself, or he has to learn to deal with this thing. Now, he's not usually an asshole, so he just learns to deal with it. But then you add a second girl in the mix. And what happens? Both those girls are fighting for the attention of all the other thirsty dudes. And it's great. They'll fight. You know when you see cat fights like online or whatever, oh my God, Allie and Pearlie are fighting, or Kate and whatever. That's what that is. But, and this is the difference. This is where that sisterhood Uber Alice thing comes in. When you get somebody attacking the grift, you know, get these pick me girls out of here. Those 2 girls will put aside all their beef, team up, and take the guy out. Socially. And there's tons of examples of this one. I'm not going to bore you with it this time because it's kind of off topic, but we're getting there. And so that's how women ruin men's spaces. They're not trying to. That's just how they're built. It's like that's what you do with a space. You didn't know that? Did you ever wonder why Housewives of whatever, where it's just a bunch of middle-aged chicks clucking at each other, was so entertaining for girls? For them, that's the fucking Super Bowl. They're like, dude, did you see that? LeBron just dunked on Michael Jordan. Holy jeez, did he have nuts on his chin? Yeah, that's the equivalent of Cindy and Kathy having a fucking about whose husband did what to who. So all these organizations that were there to help men with their spiritual maturity are gone. They're gone because this is what happened to them. They all got gutted in this exact same way. And guys are stupid. The thirsty guys didn't want to admit that, yeah, we kind of messed up and ruined everything for the 3 generations after us. So they just said, nah, let's just double down and blame misogyny for everything. Let's blame gamers. Fuck it. Fuck it. Otherwise, it's my fault. And if there's one thing that like weak, thirsty men have in common, it's that they don't like taking responsibility for anything. That's the kind of guy who gets laid and can succeed. He does that because he knows everybody else is terrified of failure. So if I just do this, they'll stay out of my way. In fact, they'll follow me behind and cheerlead it. It's like, good enough. First cut of meat, tip of the spear. I can live with that. So now you have a problem. Now that none of these things exist, what's left? What do you have left? Basically, your dad, your grandpa, and your brother. That's the only people you have left. Maybe a good drinking buddy that can help you with this kind of maturity. But, and you already know how this one's going, they invented birth control and then the chicks ran off. It's like, okay, the divorce thing. The baby boomer generation. Although if you ask the boomers, they said the silent generation were the first ones to start this. I don't know if it matters one way or the other. Here, this is really bright. I'm getting some burnouts here. As I talk about this one, I'm fixing my lighting because we're just that professional on this damn thing. Where am I going with this one? Oh, yeah. So, like, gutted by divorce. You can see the numbers. Essentially, that's why I always laugh now. If you see anybody cheerleading marriage nowadays, it's like there's no case you could make that could possibly make up for watching half the kids on this planet watch their parents just nuke their lives for no other reason than mom wasn't happy. You know, maybe dad was abusive, but mom definitely wasn't happy. Girls will put up with abuse. They won't put up with being unhappy. Well, that seems kind of short-sighted. Yeah, of course it does. What did you think? Why do you think the saying is the most responsible teenager in the room? Oh, there we go. A little softer. Excellent. So all of these people just nuked the family. Now, dad's not in the picture. You know, kids usually get divorced around 5, which is right around when all this kind of development needs to take place. Which is fun how it is. Like, literally, what's the worst time you could leave your husband and kick him out and weaponize the kids against him? Probably between the ages of 0 and 7. You're like, I can do that. Like, as a teenager, you'll get some edgy kids, but they'll get over it. As an adult, the kids have already moved out. Doesn't matter to them. It just means they have an extra Christmas party to go to. They'll live. Actually, that's pretty bad. Maybe you're better off leaving at 5. I can't stand Christmas parties, man. I can't stand them. Can't stand them. So now you've lost that. And here's the problem. That it's something, it's a genie you can't put back in the bottle, man. It's Pandora's box. Because that first generation of guys, they lost dad. Dad's not there to help them raise them. Mom is there basically filling her head with everything. And yeah, you may be a logical person, a critical thinker. You may not think it affects you. But if the only information you get in your developmental life is from the feminine side of your family, it's going to affect you. Trust me, I got 3 sisters and a mom with 2 divorces under her belt. I understand. I get it. I fucking get it. You can't help but be raised with like a feminine outlook on things. And that's just because you can only critically think within the amount of information you're given. So if the only information you're given is that, then that's it. So here's the thing. That's not bad. You can recover from that. Oh, whatever, join a sports team. Half the people's families are still together. Dad trained him. So you get some good buddies with good dads and you work with it, right? Great. Not everybody can do that, but most people can. So let's just ballpark a number just for the sake of the argument here. Let's say 90% of men either had a dad or knew somebody that they were raised with that had a dad, and so they picked up the stuff by osmosis. It's 10% of guys who are basically fucked. Next generation comes through. This is like this is the boomers. Boomers and Gen X, right? So like, it's going to be 3 generations. Just add it whatever you want. Second generation, those 10% of men have no masculine influence whatsoever. No kind of spiritual male maturity, nothing. And of those 90% left, you know, another half get divorced. So that's 45 plus 10 is 55. Now there's a larger group of guys. So now it's only like, you know, 30% of men either had a dad or had a friend who had a dad. And you see what I mean? Like this process kind of continues. And now we're at a point, I think we've reached, well, I keep saying we've reached a threshold, but everybody keeps saying that about like housing prices, but they just keep going up. So I don't know where the bottom is. I'll just say we're at the current iteration is worse than the last iteration. Where guys are raised with like 0 influence from other men for any of our biological or emotional maturities. And so we're kind of fucked. Now, and I know nothing bothers me. Like this is a thing. I'm explaining it. It's an absolute real thing. Yes, this is why lots of guys are lost. The part that drives me nuts about this space and why I totally agree with Rich that the Mano Swamp is a pile of hot garbage is that now some guy will hear this and he's like, that explains why I've been such a putz my whole life. And then he wears that as an identity because he takes that to mean, oh, thank God, my lackluster life is not my fault. And anytime he wants to talk about it, he wants to process why everything's not his fault. And he takes the complete wrong message from this, which again, it's a very feminine way of looking for it. How do I make things not my fault? In reality, it's just like, look, you were given the short end of the stick. And I'm stealing from Royce on this quote. You've been given the short end of the stick. So your job as a man is to sharpen that son of a bitch up and stab anybody in the heart who gets in your way. It's more of like a pep talk than it is like a victim statement, you know? And you don't have to. Nobody's saying any of this stuff is required. You're not, you're not a real man. Like, whatever. Real man is just such like a container word. It's whatever I want it to be. If I'm earning 425,000, well, a real man earns 400,000 or more. If I'm 6'4" and I kickbox, well, a real man kickboxes. It's like, first off, since Don the Dragon Wilson and Billy Blanks, no real man has kickboxed. I can say that with utmost confidence. No, I'm just kidding. There's some good kickboxers out there. I just don't watch the sport. So yeah, you have to figure something out. You just do. And there's only two things that men do. Oh, you know what? That's the lead in for the next topic. All right, so we'll do a timestamp and we'll do it. And we'll put in some good old shit posting while we're at it, because what good would this podcast be with the same 7 ads you've always seen? But they're funnier every time.
One of the guys who ran the Red Pill channel sent me a message. I actually appreciate that you took it from an idea-based perspective instead of ever resorting to personal attack. Like, if this movement is actually going to be dangerous, do we need to understand it so that we can take it down? I knew going into it that this might be a hot mess. I'm not going to have those guys back on my channel again. Absolutely not.
She was like so pleasant, and then all of a sudden decided to call me me and Rollo a cultist. I was like, dude, good job pandering to your audience. Anyways, husband though, like, Jesus, boy. I know for a fact she's cheating on you, or whatever. I don't mean to shit on her. She seemed like a nice enough person, but I get it. She didn't want to lose her audience, so you have to paint me as the villain, or paint Rollo as the villain. I get it. So yeah, what 2 things do men have that nobody else has, like, that make us men? Because everybody's like, well, what is a man? A man earns a paycheck. A man provides for his family. Well, not really, because girls are earning pretty good salaries right now, and half of them are out there earning more than their husbands. So if you're gonna hinge your success as a man on that, well, then be prepared. It's an uphill battle, and you could lose through no fault of your own. I think that's the worst part. A lot of guys can accept losing. What a lot of things that guys have trouble with is accepting that you're losing and there's nothing you could have done about it. If you don't believe me, talk to a construction worker in 2007. What do you mean? Oh, they were earning great money, hand over fist, building houses over houses over houses. Then 2008 hit and their industry got decimated and it has not returned. That's it. But I don't get it. I worked hard. I paid my taxes. I fed my family. And now she divorced me and I'm broke on Oxy. It's like, yeah, well, guess you should have worked harder, bro. Like, you can't outwork the 2008 recession. You just can't. So yeah, making something your success metric that's outside of your control, like, talk about, what's Rollo's quote, turning your necessity into a virtue. That's absolutely, it's like that, but it's worse, because you're turning, like, the whims of the gods. Crom decides whether I'm man or not. It's like, good luck with you, sir. So a lot of guys think it's that. A lot of guys think it's, all kinds of things. And most of the time, because we have such a safe, automated society with a lot of, like, modern conveniences, anything a man can think to do, that men used to do this, men could do this, men went to war. Yeah, well, girls can fly a chopper. It's not hard. Girls can shoot down a goat from a drone. Girls can fly a plane. Well, they can't be soldiers, boots on the ground. Well, yeah, most guys can't be soldiers with boots on the ground either. So do you really want to pick that? You basically pick something that humans just can't do anymore because they're too fat. Nailed it, boys. Teach those libtards a lesson. Sex and violence, that's it. Only a man can plow into another girl. Men are the only ones with the hormones to just want to do violent things. Even the incels, even the beta males, even they will rent a van and run through 5 or 6 people in a shopping mall. Horrific thing, not cheerleading it at all. Google, terms of service. But I'm just saying, call it what you want. What you can't call it is not violent. It's bad violence. I didn't say good or bad. I just said violence. So that's all you got is sex and violence. Or what does Cernovich call it? He calls it danger and play, which I have a feeling he did some A/B marketing testing. He's like, you know what? Sex and violence is accurate, but danger and play really sells them gorilla mindset pills. So danger and play it is. I know he stole it from Nietzsche, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, if you're using Nietzsche as your marketing plan, well, then you deserve what you get, sir. You deserve what you get. Who uses, you know what I want? Nietzsche, Camus, and Evola. I think those 3 guys are really what's going to sell the merch. Can you move merch, Evola? God, I hate philosophy. It's so insufferable. So insufferable. It's like Star Wars. The fans, horrible. Books, probably all right. The original movies were pretty good, though. So yeah, sex and violence. So what does that mean? Well, you got to be You have to be threatening. That's not have to. I guess have to is a strong word. It's just as a guy, if you're gonna rest your hat on some kind of outside markers of masculinity, violence, right? Be fit, be in shape, look like you could start some shit if you had to, but walk soft, carry a big stick. I get that. That's great. That's why this is the big reason why I always make fun of like the every week there's a new boxing match being threatened. I am just laughing. Doesn't matter how tough or how big or how strong a guy is in this stupid sphere of men that doesn't exist, that they will talk a good game about fighting, but they will never fight. Because if you fight, you might lose. Even if you're the greatest fighter in the world, like all it takes is one bad hit and I can go down. I'd rather not risk it. I'd rather leave the question unchanged. Because I know I asked one of you guys on the Manosphere Morning, which is a new series on the show where I just look at Twitter and laugh, which for some reason you guys like, so good for you. Yeah, where it was like, did that Tate fight ever happen with Logan Paul or Jake Paul? And you're like, no, that one didn't really happen either. And like, so far, Manosphere boxing matches threatened 523. Boxing matches actually followed through with 0. It has been 0 days since somebody threatened to have a boxing match and then threw a punch right afterwards. Because it's like violence scares guys. Because you can make up everything. Dude, you can market, I'm the best lover on earth. I am the greatest father. I am the best entrepreneur. I'm the greatest this. I best this. I could do everything. You can brag about anything because there's no metrics. Like nobody keeps score. It's what's that old TV show? The one with Drew Carey where they all did the improv one. But you remember that? Like the score doesn't matter and the teams aren't fair or whatever. So yeah, you can make up all this stuff. But fighting? Dude, that boxing match? Imagine this. Let's picture, I don't know, what was the old one? Rule Zero Dad's in the chat. Remember when Myron Gaines threatened you to a boxing match because you said he was an idiot for his stupid iPhone comment or whatever it was? He's like, bro, I'll fight you any day. Let's say he does that, and then you find out Rule Zero Dad ain't no slouch when it comes to the gloves. Considering how he was raised, I wouldn't blame him. He's probably got a lot of dirty street fighting moves to him. Doesn't matter what happens, you're now always that guy that lost the fight. And that's what guys are terrified. Dude, I'm the guy that lost that fight. I'll forever be a weakling. And you got to remember, like, this is like another feminine way that guys look at masculine qualities, right? A fight isn't the end of the world. There's nothing, like an ass whooping isn't the worst thing that could happen to you. You're far worse off by backing off from an ass whooping and praying the other guy doesn't hurt you and submitting than you are by just taking your lumps and moving on. I remember this Ed Lattimore and I were talking about something. It was him, me, and that was Tate too. I forgot about that. I said some, me, my shit posting thing. I said something to that effect. And Ed kind of agreed with it, but he thought it was acrimonious. And Tate's like, yeah, you'll never say that to somebody's face. I'm like, dude, if you don't care enough about what you're saying to get an ass whooping over it, then you just don't care. That's my thought. Like if a fight ever does happen, like I'm not going to back off if I don't have to. I mean, if I can, I don't want to fight. But at the same time, if I don't have a choice, I'm not going to like hope for the best. And ideally, it's a good lesson for the rest of you. It's that losing a fight doesn't mean you lose status. And I think that's what guys are worried about. You don't lose status. What you do lose status for is hiding, Because if you fight and lose, you know what? He may be a bitch. He may have lost a fight to Jack Murphy when he hit him over the head with that dildo. But at least he's going to stand up for himself. It makes you no longer a soft target. Even better, if you make sure you make it worth the person's while. Like, I don't care. You get somebody who would just, like Brock Lesnar, whoop my ass. If I manage to bite, like I take a nice bite out of his bicep while he's doing this, next time he's going to try to fight me, he's going to be like, is it worth another bite out of the bicep? Probably not. You know what, man? Nah, we're not going to fight. So you don't actually have to be stronger to win fights. You just have to prove that it's not worth it. That's it. That's as strong as you have to be. And the best part about this is that every man can be that strong. Every man can be that strong. And it's one of those lessons that you don't learn as a kid. Because as a kid, you probably got bullied. I don't care about this. No bullying. Somebody bullied you as a kid. Unless you were the bully, in which case your dad bullied you. And if it wasn't your dad, it was your drunken mom and her boyfriend, Tyrone. But it's one of those lessons where it's like, I'm getting bullied. What do I do? And it's like, punch him in the face. punch that bully in the face, but he's going to hurt me. It's like, yeah, he is. But why would I want to get hurt? Because you'll live. He's going to hurt you. He can't kill you. But I guarantee you that time you punch him in the face is the last time you get bullied. I did it. I fought my bully. Never had a problem after that. I took a few lumps. Happens. There's guys that had it way worse than me. There's guys that had it way better. A lot of the times you find out the bullying is all psychological, and then when it gets to the physical part, guy can't fight either. So yeah, violence is important, and it's just you learning. And this would have been a great lesson as an adolescent, that you learn now how to establish boundaries. Yeah, it's kind of a crude way. You shouldn't have to punch your way to boundary enforcement. But as a kid, you start with those simple rules when you're too small to hurt anybody. And then you kind of refine it as you get older into boundary enforcement. And then the other thing is sex. I'm the greatest lover ever. I'm the best pickup artist. It's like, oh yeah? 15 minutes with Susan and she'll know the answer to that. That's another thing. A lot of guys are afraid of having sex for that. It's like, really? I thought everybody wants to get laid. Everybody wants to get laid. Everybody's afraid of being inadequate. That's why if you ever want to see if like a chick online is a trap or a real chick, see if they start talking about dick size. Girls don't ever talk about dick size. I mean, maybe some of black Twitter, but I'd still say exception to the rule. No girl talks about dick size because they don't care. They don't even conceptualize that as the pain point. Guys do though. Oh, dude. The idea that their dick is inadequate is something that will send insecure dudes into a tizzy. Into a tizzy. The big paintbrushes are starting to come out. So guys are terrified of that. Now, you wouldn't believe how many times I've seen guys flat out like say it themselves, where you watch them in their head trying to process how like a set went when they were trying to sleep with this girl, that they were flirting with her, they're flirting with her, everything's going good, everything's going good, everything's going good. And then they decide to stop it right there. You know, I decided I wasn't going to try to sleep with her because, and they always make up some bullshit excuse like, you know, it was just going so well. I'm like, you know what? I'll do it on the second date. And they basically talk themselves out of sleeping with the girl. Fun fact, side note, don't ever do that. Girls will take that as a rejection. If you're with a girl, escalate and go all the way. Because if she doesn't want to sleep with you, she will let you know, but she won't get mad that you tried. No girl is mad at you when she's interested in you if you're trying to sleep with her. That's what you're supposed to do. It makes her feel loved. They like it. Even if they don't want to, even if they can't, even if there is like a physical, oh, I'm a good girl, not until marriage. They'll never fault you for the try. They'll never fault you for the attempt. But if you're like, I'm going to be a nice guy and I'm not going to do this, and we know it's because you're worried about, there's like in that limbic brain, there's that little insecurity that it might be inadequate and you might ruin all these good feelings so far by having a shitty ending. It's like, dude, just be like a Star Wars movie. If the ending sucks, just make another movie next year. It'll be fine. I mean, it won't be, they'll all suck, but everybody will watch them. It'll make $1 billion in revenue. Basically, I'm telling you, sleep with girls like the new Star Wars movies. Because when you don't, what the hell's wrong with me? Well, nothing's wrong with me. I'm perfect. What's wrong with him? And now it's a rejection and she hates you. The guy tries to call for a second date, always gets ghosted. I've never seen a guy who like tried to be a gentleman and didn't sleep with her on the first date who got called the next day. It's such a rare event. And even then, it's usually because the girl like realizes the logistics weren't happening. But if anything, the guy just got lucky. It's not that he was good. Yeah. I never thought I'd hear Star Wars movies compared to dating. Well, that's the trick with intelligence, right? Being able to connect disparate things. In my case, high enough EQ to make Star Wars referencing anything in life. I'm just fucking with you. I just like it because they're such dog shit, but anytime I want to talk about something that's dog shit, but you should do it anyway, a Star Wars movie is a great analogy for it. So imagine this one, though, like the biggest superpower when it comes to sex and violence, in the same way that you don't have to be the strongest guy on the block. You just have to show the strongest guy on the block that you're not the softest target. Same thing with sex. You don't have to be the greatest in bed. You don't have to have the biggest dick size and all this stuff. You just have to be willing to go for it and be like, you know what? The indifference to whether other people think you are great or not is what makes you better. Because people want to believe you're great. If somebody's willing to sleep with you, they want to believe that you're the greatest guy on earth. Because nobody wants, I'm going to sleep with this loser because I think it's fun I hate my self-esteem. Fuck it. No, they're like, dude, this guy is hot. I'm totally into him. This is going to happen. This is the greatest time of my life. That's what a girl walks in believing. I need to believe this. I hate my husband, but this guy is amazing. So as long as you don't ruin that fantasy, she'll make up shit to make sure she believes it. Girls may say they want a 6-foot guy with a 6-inch dick, but girls have no spatial logic whatsoever. If she's into you, she thinks you're 7'10" and your dong is 10.5 inches. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And if not, well, just don't care. Got laid. Like, you got what you came for. Well, I won. It was a Pyrrhic victory, but it's a victory, you know? And what I'm describing here is basically being aloof. Isn't aloof one of those Yeah, aloof is one of those attractive qualities. Well, how do you get there? You basically have to stop caring about validation from the outside world or worry about the outside world's judgment of your internal state. So what is frame? Well, that is part of frame, but that's not frame. But you see what I mean? Little things like this, to be able to have that mindset shift from being terrified about getting into a fight and being terrified that you might be inadequate in bed into, yeah, you're going to beat my ass, but I'll make it worth it. And don't care got laid. It just sounds like, oh, it's just such an easy shift. Just do that. It's not an easy shift. Ask me how I know. Ask me. I'll give you 65. Wait, I'll give you. What's the number I'm looking for here? Let me look it up. I'm going to give you 64,585 reasons why that is the case. Hey, that means it's slightly longer than Fuck Files. That's awesome. All right. Really glad I split that book up into two. Anyways, so the next is Truth and Fitness. This one's going to get more cerebral, so, put your dicks away. We're not talking alpha male stuff here for a minute. Who are we going to dunk on now? Let's try this guy.
Not Ryan Stone. I think he's the most important guy in the world. Ryan Stone. Give a fuck about Ryan Stone. Me and him have gone back and forth. Blah, blah, blah. Ryan Stone does not pass the 6-foot test. He's not even a man. So I don't give a fuck with Ryan Stone.
Funny thing is, I don't know which one is which. I just have them listed on my thing as like media source 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I never remember. So every time I click it, it's going to be a surprise which person comes up. Yeah, 6 foot. 6 foot's is a state of mind. It's not a height. There's nothing attractive. Well, I mean, he is tall and he is built and he is rich. So it's like to call him unattractive is really, I mean, maybe not attractive for you. That's fine. It's a lot of Ryan Stones in a sentence. I know he talks that one clip talked about me more than I ever have, which I really got to step it up. If he's going to do Ric Flair, then I got to start doing the Ultimate Warrior on these fucking beefs. Start just rambling about nonsense. And then the warrior, the alpha male of the thing will Gorilla Press Monsoon. Shut up, Mean Gene. You're an idiot. Man, I miss, dude, all these self-improvement guys, like all the Zoomers and that. You guys need to go back from like 1991 to like 2002 and go watch wrestling and then come back to watching all these videos and you'll know. Oh boy. All right, we're going to do a quick thing here because this guy, what's his name? Fidlius? It's true. Alpha, beta male characteristics don't directly correlate with brain waves. Dude, what are you doing, man? What the fuck is that gobbledygook? I don't mean to single you out and shit on you. It's actually bad streaming etiquette to call out somebody in the chat. I think you need to be corrected here. Alpha and beta is not a demographic, man. It's just a container word we use to talk about certain sets of behaviors and qualities. Alpha, if it makes a girl wet, it's considered alpha. If it makes a girl comfortable from a relationship standpoint, it's beta, and that's it. That's all you need to know about alpha and beta. That's all it's ever meant. To call somebody an alpha male is the equivalent of like an ex-Christian trying to find a word to replace when you call somebody godly. You know? Oh, he's good. He's evil. Oh, he's alpha. He's beta. Alpha doesn't mean good. Beta doesn't mean bad. Dark Knight Dev, sir. $20 super chat. Thank you very much kindly. A do-rag boy. Gotta love it. Grew up in the hood. Never fought. Got beat up by a 20-year-old corner boy when I was 14. I didn't hit hard, but I was scared. Felt insecure the whole weekend. And then freshman year high school, joined wrestling. Dude, there's another benefit too. You see that? One ass whooping. And he's like, nope. Ain't never happened. That ain't ever happening again. Joined wrestling. And I'll tell you right now, dude. In a street fight, if I had to pick anybody, I mean, nobody was armed, but I had to pick somebody, a wrestler. An American wrestler, dude, my buddy's dad used to teach me so many dirty tricks. It was like amazing. He's like, you know what the greatest weapon is for a wrestler? I'm like, what that is? He's like, the ground. When you drop a guy on the floor face first, he ain't getting up, especially when you throw your weight into it. And he was like a 250-pound man. So I'm like, fair. Show me this trick where you give a guy like a bear hug, but you drive your skull into his solar plex. And he had like this weird bump on his head. He had done it so much, he got some calluses there. It's like the reverse of like a baby skull. You know, the soft spot, except for his was like a cone of death. And you would just squeeze into your solar plex. You could feel your floating ribs caving in. And then he said to like take your knuckle like this and you put it into somebody's jaw right there. When he has you in like a headlock or a chokehold, he's like, oh yeah, they'll drop you. They'll drop you. They'll drop you in a minute. They ain't dealing with that shit. So yeah, but it's good. I mean, you know what? One ass whooping. It's the cheapest way to learn a great lesson like that. Juan Doe, sir, €2 super chat. We can't be alpha 24/7 even with a Bugatti. I gotta learn. This may be like one of those self-owns, but I don't know much about the Bugatti brand. I know it's Italian, and everybody always assumes Italian stuff is like high status, high class. But the problem is, marketers know that. So there's a lot of really like shitty marketers that like just make an Italian name to make you think. It's like American pizza, right? Oh, well, pizza's Italian, and Italians are known for good food. Yeah, but it's Little Caesars. It's not the same thing. Well, all cars are overpriced, Nikanova. That's the point of it, though. The whole point of these things are expensive flexes, right? It's saying, I have enough money to waste on a $250,000 car. And it's just your way of flexing resources. The problem is, flexing resources is a very class-conscious thing. So, for example, if you're poor, you flex the way you think a rich person looks. So what do? You buy a giant gold chain. You buy rings. You buy spinners on your car rims, right? And you think, look at that guy. He's rich now. But he's only rich in the stereotype that poor people think rich are. An actual, like, do you think Elon Musk has rims on his spinner or spinners on his rims? Fuck no. Didn't he just show that video off where somebody was stalking his kid and he had like a Corolla or something very like simple like that? Yeah, he's got a jet too, but it's not painted in like neon green. They flex with all kinds of different things. I think somebody's best example was it was either Zuckerberg or Apple iPhone dude, Steve Jobs, where they were just wearing like a Walmart turtleneck and dad jeans, but it was like a $20,000 watch from some brand that's just custom made, like nobody knows who they are. Flexes are very socially conscious, so you got to really be careful if you're trying to show off how rich you are. It's like, who are you trying to impress? Are you trying to impress poor people in what they think rich people are? Are you trying to impress other rich people by showing how rich you are? Or by how it's going to be totally different signals. And yeah, ostentatious showing off of wealth, that's a poor person thing. Don't ever do that. Or do. I don't know. I guess if you want money from poor people to sell to your Hustlers University, absolutely. Spinners on them rims all fucking day. JD gets it. Old money versus new money. Old money versus new money. So, truth versus fitness. This was totally a topic that I took my sweet time getting to, but it's kind of important. You know what? I have to fix the timestamps now. It'll take me a second. 52. Flexes. We'll call this section flexes, and then truth versus fitness. I know next time Rolo and I have one of our 4-hour nerding out on science live streams, which I don't know if you guys like those or not. I like them, but I just assume the audience wants to stab themselves in the eye with a fork after watching them. Just because I'm like, dude, there's no way anybody... It's like Guitar World. Nobody read that magazine unless you were in a band. Nobody did. Truth versus fitness. There was a Nature. If you guys don't know, Nature magazine is kind of the preeminent scientific research magazine that exists, right? Which, I mean, that used to count for a lot more, but you know, after the vaccine thing, that's where we're at now. But whatever. At the time, it was still pretty credible. Anywho, some Evo site guys, and I got the name in the book. I can't recall off the top of my head. We'll look it up later. If you guys remember, throw it in the chat. He did some research that found humans weren't built. We weren't evolved to understand objective anything. We were built for fitness, not truth. So what the hell does that mean? Well, you know what? I'm going to quote here. I know it's in here somewhere. Where'd I put it? Not truth, but fitness. I'm going to do the quote because I think it's important enough to get it right. Oh, there we go. So it's Professor Donald Hoffman, professor of cognitive science at the University of California. So suppose in reality there's a resource like water, and you can quantify how much of it there is in an objective order. You know, a little bit of water, a medium amount of water, a lot of water. Now suppose your fitness function is linear. So a little water gives you a little fitness, more water gives you more fitness, and a lot of water gives you a lot of fitness. In that case, the organism sees the truth about the water in the world better can win, but only because the fitness function happens to align with the true structure in reality. So you get that? If your interests align with truth, then yeah, it'll happen. But genetically, in the real world, that will never be the case. In the real world, something is more natural in like a bell curve. Say too little water and you die of thirst, but too much water and you drown. And only somewhere in between is it good for survival. Now, the fitness function doesn't matter the structure in the real world, and that's enough to send truth to extinction. For example, an organism tuned to fitness, and they have to be, because if you're not tuned to fitness, you'll be out genetically bred by ones that are. Now, the fitness function doesn't match the structure in the real world, and so for example, an organism turned to fitness might see small and large quantities of some resource as, say, he just uses red here as an example, to indicate low fitness, wherever they might see the intermediate qualities as green to indicate high fitness. But you see how I use that like red and green, exact opposites? So it's one element, water. And instead of little bit of water is bad, a lot of water is good, a little bit of water is bad, a lot of water is bad, a medium amount of water is good. And that's why he uses red and green, that we will physically separate too much, too little, and just enough of something as like separate objects. There's like that one study too of those tribes in Africa or South America, whatever, that couldn't tell the difference between blue and green. Like they didn't have a word for sky and ground. And so for them, it like developed as the same color for them, but they were able to tell the shades between 3 different types of green with like absolute clarity, which for you and me, it would look completely like, yeah. So it's one of those things. So they're selected for fitness, not for truth, right? So its perceptions will be tuned to fitness, but not truth. It won't see any distinction between small things and large things. It only sees them as bad, even though that distinction exists in reality. Ooh, that is actually not supposed to be there. Good thing I did this, man. I almost screwed up. There we go. So yeah, like we love the mysteries of the universe. That's all great, but you got to realize humans aren't really built. And just from that simple example, there's tons more like it. You're not built for objective truth. You're built for fitness. You're built for utility. And in this case, a little bit of woman is bad. A lot of woman is bad, but just the right amount of woman is good. Wando, €5 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Being powerful is like being a lady. If you have to tell people, you aren't. Thatcher, huh? Dude, she's got more balls than most people today. If you ever want to know how much of a badass Margaret Thatcher is, look up SAS training exercise Margaret Thatcher. It's pretty baller. Like, you know that Modern Warfare 2 like training stage? Yeah, she lived that. And she was on the other end. She was on the end with the statues, with the little cardboard cutouts. JD, £5 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Being from a class system has its benefits. I can smell nouveau riche trash a mile away. Their cheap gold glows more than Chernobyl. I can imagine. So yeah, so now that you know this, that we are built for fitness, not truth, what does that mean? Well, that means A, you can stop arguing with women. I need her to understand, like you don't need her to understand. You don't need her to see the truth. You don't need to explain things to her because that's not what she's built for. She's built for fitness. Allie did a tweet this yesterday or this morning, I can't remember which, where she's talking about ethos, pathos, and logos. If you guys don't know, those are the 3 rhetorical styles of communication in order of like importance. And ethos was status, like, speaking from the authority of the speaker. Pathos is the emotion. Like, what does it make you feel when somebody is saying something? And logos is the appearance of logic, which is funny Because most people think that means being logical. I'm like, no, no, no. The appearance of logic. And I think that's a very important distinction. You don't have to be logical. You just have to be consistent. And this is why, and she's like, yeah, you can't use logos when some girls are arguing from pathos. And to which I answer, it's like, all girls are arguing from ethos. They all are. They don't care. I mean, they do understand making how somebody feels is important. They don't care about logic, girls at all. And if you want to know this for true, wait till a girl is like really grumpy because she hasn't slept and she's starving. Try to be logical. See how much she gives a shit. Just make me a goddamn sandwich, you fucking idiot. I'm like, Jesus Christ, lady. Calm the fuck down. Oh, Billy, keep it up. Where's I going with this one? Oh, yeah. It's always ethos. It's always about status. That's why girls shit tests. They shit test because they want to see. Is he still high status? Am I still attracted to him? Oh, okay, good. Just confirming. It's like how girls all of a sudden randomly throw out 7 times a day. Love you. Do you love me? Like, what? Why do you keep asking that? I just want to hear it. It's just that. But they're just shit tests. So yeah. And then once you understand that, you realize, okay, maybe my search for truth is kind of a fool's errand. Because it's not helpful. It's not helpful at all. Like, let's say, religion's a great example. You know, they say monogamy and the church has been the greatest thing for Western civilization for 2,000 years. Absolutely true. Objectively, I can prove it. I can show numbers. I can show the rise and the fall of human progress in any element you want to show. Here's the thing, though. Is that useful for you? What's the church telling you to do? Hey, you need to get married at 18 as a virgin to another 17-year-old. You guys need to have 10 kids, bring them all to church, tithe 10%, work your ass off, and if she leaves you, it's because you didn't try hard enough and you got to take care of your kids. And then you need to marry this single mom because she comes to church very often, and do your duty. Does that sound too useful for you? Probably not. In the long scheme of things, is it going to help out society at large? Probably. What the fuck? Like I said, it's a fitness thing. Too much religion, too little religion. Too little religion, you get hedonists reading drag queen story hour to kids. Too much of it, you get horrible terrorism, 2000, fight the Muslims, crusades. So you want just like an average level of like spirituality to you, where it's like, yeah, I go to church, but I also watch football. So yeah, truth versus fitness. And then once you understand that, it's another one of these things. And this is why I love the book. I think this is why Nick likes the book too, because to look at it from a research perspective, there's like 260 random tidbits, little mental models, little models of the way you can see the world and adjust how you think about it and then anchor your decisions to a different way of processing things. The joy of it came in being able to actually put it together in like a coherent thing. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't even have the words for it yet. I'm not that good of a writer yet. Maybe book 3 I'll be able to word this properly. But you know what I mean? So for you guys, it's great. You get to spend a lot less work on this than I did. And so it's little things like that when you just take the life and you realize like your girl doesn't have to logically understand you. You don't always have to make sense, as long as the things you do work out for being in your own best interest. As long as they're tracked to fitness, not to truth, right? Why not? Hey, what's going on, Mish? And that matters for everything. Dude, you can take religion like that. There's a lot of Christian guys. I think Red Hawk, great example. I've been on his show a few times where he's a Christian guy. He's a good man. He wants to do all the godly stuff that you see people cheering on, like, keep your hands off your dick, don't fuck random girls, be a good godly man. That's great. But he kind of realizes like, look, the fitness function here is if I want to live this godly life I want, a wife, a family, kids, and that, first thing I got to do is attract to him. Then what I got to do is sexually make her attracted to me. Then what we have to do is get her to want to commit to me. So how do you get there? And he's like, well, just game. All this same stuff the pickup artist doing. You can say it's a lot of things. You can say it's evil and it's wrong, but as a fitness, it's absolutely useful. Joy Seeker, $20, 22-cent super chat. 2022. Oh, I get it. Dude, I like that. 12/24 and 12/31 are Saturdays. Well, how fucking about that? It's a good point, sir. By the way, I like how you got like the snowflakes on the side of your thing here. How do you do that? I gotta learn that. Yeah, he's a funny dude. Mystery method maxing. It's just like I use mystery because that's what I used to use when I was in my early 20s, right? Because I thought that was great. But I mean, there's 500 systems out there. Most of them are good to some extent. Like London Day Game, the Troy Francis approach like a warlord stuff, Day Bang from Rouge, Mystery Method. It's all different flavor. It's like Linux. If you know one, you know them all. They're all slightly different. They all have benefits. They all have detriments. People prefer one, people prefer the other, and they'll cheerlead it to death. But it's all just training wheels for the soul, man. Once you learn how to attract a woman, you know how to attract a woman. And then you don't have to use the system anymore because you're going to do your own thing because you already know. You have the confidence in the process. You know what signals you're looking out for. You know when it's time to do something, when it's time to not do something. But that advice you used to get from all those chads in your life saying, oh, just walk up and talk to her, bro. Now you finally like, yeah, I'm going to do that. But you couldn't do that before. She's like, what do I say? How do I get up there? What do I do? I don't fucking know. Yeah, there are many paths to Rome, but at the end, you're still at Rome. Oh, Matt, I might be making a hardcover edition. It looks like Kindle has added the option for hardcover. So if that's the case, although now I got to learn because I'm just started up now. I got my Quark Express all booted up. I haven't touched the program. I haven't touched Quark since like 1999. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. I forgot how to work the fucking thing. Made a tweet and tagged you, Coach. It's about Frame. Is it another one of those Abu freakouts? Because God knows I'm getting tired of those. Although I did see one that was kind of cute. I hate this guy, but he's right. When I did that tweet about the one thing that'll make you hate men more is stay in a self-help space and talk to other guys. He's like, yeah, he's right. I hate him, and he's right. I'm like, well, fuck, talk about proof. That's good. Oh, some dude getting told off by his woman in public. Oh, dude, that's brutal. I'll check it out after. I'll say this, though, right now. If your woman is putting you on blast in public, don't start the fight. Don't cower off and try to make things okay. Just kind of the equivalent of like, is now the time for the... Let's have this conversation in a minute. Let's have it later. Or you tell everybody else, hey, guys, can I have the room for a minute? Oh, I see. All right. Well, if it's going to plug my book, it's got to pay the bills, right? All right. Mish has a good point. Let's pay some bills here. Oh, I shouldn't have checked this. All right. Yeah, I'm teaching all the Rule Zero guys about how to redirect. They still haven't figured it out. I've sent screenshots of the clicks. I'm like, dude, you can raid people's channels. You can send your audience to theirs. Every Rule Zero. Why aren't you guys doing this? Because I can send all of you guys over there so you don't have to go hunting through the emails. Yeah, I bought a copy of the menu thinking it was a cookbook. Clary will pay for this. Oh, Clary. Yeah, thanks for pointing out the despecialized Star Wars. Oh, I know, it's better, isn't it? It's just good. I like it. It just keep it simple. Anyways, so yeah, truth versus fitness. I think we can move on from this one now. I think I've milked this topic. What do we got here? Let's make fun of this one.
I love the way girls smell. I love how they always shower, by and large. They shower, and they just have an amazing smell to them in general.
That giant adult-sized baby has a point. I do love a women's shower. Dude, Bunny, the one I had on the podcast a couple weeks back. She was like, I always like that about you. Your hair always looks clean when you're on cast. I just sent a screenshot of him. I'm like, yeah, the vibes right now. Who's that creep? Oh, you don't know about Pat Stedman. Yeah, he's like one of the original Twitter beefs for clout. It was actually pretty funny. So, history lesson. I guess we're doing a history lesson here. We'll talk about the actual topic in a minute. Right now, we got a history lesson for you. When Rollo brought me and Hunter Drew onto that convention from Florida that shall not be named, we did it. It was fun. And then a lot of people had like an irrational hate for Rollo. My best guess at the time was because he's done like some phenomenal work. He connected Pickup Artist with Evo Psych, made a fundamental text that's kind of like, hasn't really been comparable to anything else. And so people have two responses to it. You can have the mature response, which is like, I'm going to stand on the shoulders of giants. Okay, he's got this. So what can I do that amends it, amplifies it, extends it, critiques it, something like that. The other side of the things are like, I'm going to be that. I want to be the rational male for this space, but I don't have a body of work and 20 years experience. So I'm just going to shit on him all day to make him worse, which makes me better. And this, enter upstream Twitter. The fuck is upstream Twitter? Oh, a bunch of these pickup artists ruined our wives. Jesus is the way. Eastern European women are best, but I love Asian girls. Like all those kind of guys got together and they talked about upstream Twitter like it was the best thing. It's leave the red pill behind. You're poor. Come with the rich ones of us. And it was just 3 years of shovelware and vaporware. It just nothing came of it except for a lot of talk, a lot of hot air. And he was the front runner to it. And I remember this was funny because he was always talking about how he's better than everybody. He's a fancy wine taster, trust fund baby parents, all this stuff. His hot Polish wife, which, you know, whatever. But then he stormed the Capitol for Donald Trump and got arrested because one of his high school classmates was like, you know what? I know that guy. Hey, FBI? Yeah, fuck this guy. And so it was just like the most funny, gratifying, vindictive, and petty thing I've ever had where this guy has been talking shit about me for 3 years, then gets arrested in the stupidest way possible by filming his live stream, breaking federal laws in a protest. It's like, dude, the revolution will not be televised. And that's not like saying because the government will cancel. It's because it's saying the revolutionaries weren't stupid enough to film the fucking evidence, you know? Yeah, hence the Polish passport joke, exactly. Lost his passport mere weeks before he was going to move. So for this guy, that's why I don't feel bad about cyberbullying. Because I'm like, whatever, he's an idiot. He loved ranting about the lizard people and stuff too, and the Illuminati and all the conspiracy stuff, like kind of like I do on MK Canada. Except for ours is more entertainment, and his is like, how do you protect your family from the Illuminati lizard people? It's like, oh, dude. Somebody should introduce him to that 1982 series called V. He'll be just, oh my god, they actually are lizards? Holy shit. Which, if you haven't seen it, by the way, it's a great series. It's like up there with the 2000s Battlestar Galactica. It's really good. Point of this is, you exist for you. And it was a great quote from Whisper. He wrote it, no, V, just V. Here, I'll get you a link. V TV series. Because I think they did a redo of it, which sucks dick. So you don't want that. Had some like really hot Wonder Woman looking chick in it too. Remember back in the 80s when all the chicks had those like cheekbones that you could cut glass with? Yeah, it's like that. We got goats instead of lizards here. It was kind of like Cylons, but the aliens were actually lizards. They actually like were lizards, but they had like human skin on. I don't know why. I'm live streaming. How can I not? Oh, there we go. There it is. 1983. Oh, they even had some TV movies from it too. Here you are. Like if you ever watched an episode of Knight Rider or the A-Team or Columbo and you kind of liked all those like early 80s TV serials, I think you'll like this too. Oh, dude, was awesome. I remember watching reruns of it, which was great because I didn't have to wait a week in between. I'm Stedman, the styling, profiling, perfume smelling, by and large shower and son of a gun, woo. Yeah. But yeah, you exist for you. So that was his quote. Let me quote it properly here. I don't want to screw it up. Here she is. Where is it? Yeah, you exist for you, or you belong to you. You exist for you. Anybody who wants something from you better offer you something in exchange instead of convincing you it's your duty or threatening you. And that's because every moral system is just stuff somebody made up. And if you buy into it when it hurts you, you're an idiot. Never again do you let people subvert your primary objective with their bullshit. It's a powerful statement, and I don't think people understand that. It's really... And everybody's like, this is a philosophy and a cult. It's not a cult. There's nothing cult-like about me saying, if somebody wants you to sacrifice for them, they better pay you market rates. Don't just give your value away for free. Like, have some dignity and self-respect. When I word it like that, it sounds great. But everybody's, no, you got to man up. And you see examples of this everywhere. Like every 6 months, there's always some trad tard on Twitter or YouTube that's like shows an example of some girl getting punched in the face in a bar because she fucked around and found out. Where were the men in her life to defend her? And you're like, are you fucking stupid? They always love that story of the dude during the Las Vegas shooting. Remember the guy who like saw a bunch of chicks he never even knew before and he dived in front of them and ate 5 bullets? He's dead over some girl he never met who didn't give 2 shits about him. It sounds good. You're like, oh, sacrifice yourself for the women. That sounds so noble. It's like, screw that. Imagine this guy has a family at home. They're pissed off. Or better yet, just how about just now he's dead and this chick's alive and this chick isn't him, doesn't care about him, won't help. Whole family's in grief. Like, don't light yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Don't. You can make that decision if your wife has decided or girlfriend that she's that valuable in your life that you're willing to offer your protective instinct. Then yeah, absolutely. But I think a lot of guys underestimate how much of a gift that is, right? Like our natural desire to protect women and children, it's ingrained in our DNA. And in the same way that we get diabetes if we follow our instincts too much, like we eat sugar because we're addicted to sugar because that's just how we're built. So you have to like go against your instincts to make sure you don't eat sugar and you stay healthy. In that same way, that protective instinct can be weaponized against you, so you need to temper it. Temper it. You don't give it away for free. Don't be a time hoe, as Patrice O'Neill would say. And it's such a revolutionary idea that red pill dudes have been called the misogynistic pieces of shit in the universe because of it. How dare you tell a man to look over his own self-interest? You fucking idiot. You're like, what do you want from me? Gamergate lady? Like, fuck off. Oh, the HR professionals will instantly become like the most demure women ever. Yeah, no Captain Save-A-Ho, no defending women. Hope she sees this, bro, has become a lifestyle. So he exists for you, and just that simple change, and it sounds simple, and it is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. You're basically having to, it's like instinct. It's like telling you, you can jump off this cliff, you won't die. Is the guy going to jump? He's like, no. Everything in his body is telling him not to jump off that cliff. Is he fucking stupid? No. He's not doing it. But in this case, it's like, yeah, you kind of have to. Of course, if the cliff kept divorce raping you, then maybe you would. All right, fuck it. Fuck it. And it all comes down to rational egoism, which if you want to talk about red pill as a philosophy, that's about as close as you're going to get. And all rational egoism, it's just a rehashing, like a secular humanist version of the master and slave morality of Nietzsche, or the self-love concept in Francois de la Rochefort. I think I'm pronouncing that right. With his, what's it called? Reflections and Moral Maxims, or fuck, Marcus Aurelius probably calls it self-love too. I'm sure he does. Dark Knight Dev, sir, another $5 super chat. Let me tell you about the cuck article, my friend. You know how most guys can't get girls, but most guys don't make an honest effort to? You don't have to outrun the bear, just outrun the next guy. Absolutely. Like, dude, a lot of the times, just trying. I'm amazed. There's been a few guys that I've had to talk to about this where it's like, I don't know, man. She's out of my league. I was like, well, she is now. There's no leagues. Just go hit on her. What's the worst case scenario? Oh, she'll reject me. Yeah, but if you don't walk up, she's already rejected you. So you're in the same. So worst case scenario, a girl you barely know will now still barely know you and still isn't sleeping with you. So you haven't changed. Worst case scenario, you're back where you started. Maybe one more person on this earth doesn't like you, but I guarantee you after 2 weeks, they couldn't even pick you out of a lineup. Nobody remembers. Nobody remembers. Yeah, so you exist for you. And it matters more than just like, yeah, single, it's easy to say that because you don't got shit. But imagine telling you exist to you to a guy with a kid and a mom and a wife and a house and risk, right? That's a much harder lesson for him. Because he thinks that like his job is to sacrifice for his women and his job is to sacrifice for his kids. He needs to make sure that his kids never has a harder life as he did. Tanner Guzzi talked about this a few years back. It's like, how should you raise a kid? Like, what's the best way to raise a kid? And I said something to the effect of, just do it the same way your dad did, right? Because it was some like daddy issue type thing. I can't remember exactly, but it was something to that effect. If your dad raised you and you had a hard life, is it worth raising your kids so that they don't ever have to experience that? And I'm like, why don't you just raise them the same way you were raised? You turned out all right. He called it cynical and black-pilled, but I was like, there's like an ego to that statement, you know? Where you're like, my kids could never handle the childhood I had. I managed to grow out of it and be a better person, but they can't handle it. Like, picture the ego behind that statement. Only I could survive that traumatic childhood. These kids today, the ones that I'm raising to not be able to handle it, could never handle it. It's like, dude, I'm not saying to beat your fucking kids. I'm just saying, I'm not even going to say just, because I don't like minimizing it. What I am saying is that the more hardship your kids have growing up, the better off they are at dealing with hardship. So when you say, I'm going to make sure these kids never have to experience the kind of father that my dad was, all you're doing is you're using your kids as like an emotional crutch to make up for whatever daddy issues you have. And that's just not fair. It's a human being that worships you like a god, and you're basically using them as a psychological crutch. It's like, fuck you, man. Not Tanner, but like the hypothetical guy here. Tanner's great. Plus, he's got like 8 kids at this point. I don't think he can have daddy issues. It's like Elon. Can you even remember all the kids' names? Probably be like my grandma. She had 20 kids, 10 adopted, 10 kids. And whenever she would say the name, she would like stutter. Or Eddie, Leon, Orville. Like, I always just laughs like, and then the grandkids. Oh, dude. She just like 30 seconds of stuttering until she could remember which one of us she was talking to. And that's when we found out we all just started getting called boy. Hey, boy, get over here. We're like, okay, I get it. Today it's child abuse. I'm not saying beat your kids, but just because you haven't coddled your kids and bubble wrapped their life doesn't mean you're beating your kids. Jesus. Everybody's worried about child abuse the same way they're worried about divorce rape. Yes, it happens, but for the most part, the few times where it does happen sends a giant signal for everybody else to act like a giant bitch about it, you know? Parent always calls every other brother. Yeah, they always get your name last. Exactly. I see another family of 5. Tell me you're in a family of 5 without telling me you're in a family of 5. Yeah, just don't beat your kids. Don't put cigarettes out on them. Don't let stepdad diddle them. That's all you got to do to be a good parent. Make sure they're fed. Give them a house to stay in. For the most part, they will raise themselves. So I've been told. I don't have any 20-year-old kids right now. But everybody I've talked to who did said that. And the other thing was like, your best relationship with your kids is going to be when they're as adults. So make sure you don't piss them off so much as kids they don't want to associate with you as an adult, right? But I mean, that's kind of a little bit out of the topic here. Yeah, you exist for you. And so just this certain amount of healthy selfishness. And it's not being cruel. I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong. They think to be selfish means you got to grind everybody under your foot. You got to treat women like trash. And you got to suck the life out of guys and steal money from everybody. It's like, that's not the same thing as being selfish. That's just being psychopathic and not in the healthy way. Yeah, alpha dad problems remembering all their names. A lot of it is just not caring when people do things that don't affect you. And when they do affect you, make sure you get yours out of it or enforce your boundaries. Like, you're not mean about it. Why would you be mean? You have no reason to be mean. If you're sleeping with a bunch of girls and you're having a great time, do you have any reason to hate women? It's like, no, they're giving you everything you could want. That's why the best seduction guys tend to have the most positive view of women because they can afford to. It's like a luxury belief. Do you know who's bitter and hates women? Fucking guys who aren't getting laid. You know why? Because he's not getting anything from them, so they're physically useless to him. Does that sound like a great selfish attitude to have? It's not. It's sour grapes. Selfish guys are kind. Selfish people are nice to everybody. The CEO of the company is the kindest person you ever meet. The captain of the ship, kindest man you'll ever meet. Talks to the crew. He thinks you guys are great. You guys are like, what a likable guy. You know why? Because he can be. Because he's got a coxswain that'll tear your asshole off if your sideburns are slightly too long. It's because he's got an XO that will make that officer cry in front of everybody if he dares second guess the captain. That's why the captain's the nicest guy on board. He's nice because he can be. Gandhi freed India through passive resistance. You know why? Because Japan had bayonets on the other side of the border and they were going to town. And the Brits just had to call it off. They're like, fuck it, we can't handle all this. You exist for you, and you have to understand that. Or get eaten. Everybody's either prey or predator. Do whatever you want. All right, what are we at here? 125. Who are we going to shit on now? Let's throw another one of these out. Who do I got left?
We know that these videos really prey on vulnerable young men who have not had many experiences in dating.
Bless that little boy. So wise. Wise above his years. Value tetrahedron. I don't know if I've specifically talked about this in the emails, and this is kind of like Nick didn't want to flat out say it because he didn't like the idea of spoiling the book. I don't mind that because I don't think it matters. The trailer for Terminator 2, if you guys don't know, was like the biggest spoiler in movie history. Because if you watch Predator 2, assuming Arnold Schwarzenegger is the same Predator from Predator 1. And you're going to notice, holy shit, yeah, he made the movie so that Arnold being the good Terminator, or sorry, Terminator, not Predator. Watch Terminator 2 thinking that it's the same Terminator from Terminator 1. And you're going to find he designed it that all the way up to the hospital scene, you're supposed to think that Schwarzenegger is the villain, the bad guy. Until when he's like, come with me if you want to live. They're like, holy shit, he's a good robot? And that's the bad robot? And then the trailer spoiled all that. He used to be the bad guy. Now he's the good guy. Terminator 2, theaters in 1993 or whatever. Yeah, it's another Billy. Anyway, yeah, so it's the same way. It's like you can spoil the movie, but Terminator 2 sold like more tickets than any movie in history up to that point. So, oh yeah, I agree they do suck, but that's the point. You still watched Terminator 2. You still liked it, right? So what am I talking about now? I'm talking about the value tetrahedron. Or frame tetrahedron. And you're like, what the hell's a tetrahedron? You ever seen a pyramid? It's a 3-sided pyramid, like a D4. If you guys, any nerds in here? A 4-sided dice, a tetrahedron. And the best conceptualization of frame came from one of the older guys, older than me in the married red pill space. I want to say it was Scorch Thang, but it might be Fear Dog. It's possibly Yui McGill. I'd have to go look it up again. I got it in my notes and I'm not about to look it up because it's going to take too much time. We're running out of time. And he realized it because a lot of guys, like that story I told you earlier about Steve McQueen, ditched his girl, got a new girl, thought everything was great, went straight to vision. Straight to having frame without any of the underlying work. And then what happened? He put himself in the same rut he was always in. So it kind of leads us to think like, okay, so what are the underlying situations that allow a man to have frame versus a guy who's pretending to have frame and fucks it up? And that's when you realize it was all the little things. Holy shit. Turns out, do you even lift, bro, is more important than you think. Like I've always treated it as like a litmus test. If you can't bother to do this, you're not going to listen to anything else. So it's not worth wasting your time on them, right? So there's fitness, there's, working out, there's nutrition, there's your style, there's your hygiene. Yes, hygiene. I love guys who shower every day. I said it and I mean it. How to take care of your hair, how to take care of your eyes. You know why that's important? It's not because you have to looks max. This is where all those black pill guys get it wrong. Who'da thunk the least social guys ever get fucking the human condition completely wrong? It's because you give a shit. It's details. You care about the details in your life in a way that signals to everybody else. These are the spinners on your rims for fit people. If somebody looks at you and sees a guy who gives a shit about his appearance, that's setting an expectation. This is why girls, I don't know if you've ever had this situation where, you're done up to the nines, you look good, you got your metrosexual game on point, you're walking in with your Chelsea boots. And if you've done all this and you had a girl's like, dude, when I first saw you, you were kind of intimidating and I realized you're really down to earth and easy to talk to. Like I've gotten that before. Good old days. The good old days of my youth. Yeah, and you realize it's because of those, you see somebody who's well put together, which shows they're detail-oriented, they give a shit, they have standards, and then it kind of forces you, if you want to be with them, to kind of meet those standards. Because if he cares about himself that much, imagine how much he cares about other people. It's like that guy you see at the bar. Like, are you going to fight a guy at the bar wearing a Walmart shirt? No. He's in a Walmart shirt and jogging pants. He doesn't give a fuck. I ain't touching him. I'm not touching him. Exactly, a Magic the Gathering tournament. You're going to go in there? Dude, this guy can't even be bothered to shower and wash his ass. Do you think he gives a shit? No. Of course they see it. That's all they do. Everything they see is hyper-attuned to status. It's all ethos with them. And so, yeah, just something as simple as lifting makes that huge difference. Plus, there's tons of benefits. There's the hormonal aspect, like your testosterone gets locked in straight by losing fat. Actually, fat stores estrogen and prevents the aromatization of testosterone, sorry. So the fatter you are, the less your testosterone can affect you. So by losing weight, you become more masculine, hormone-wise, you get to be less empathetic. It's a good thing. So all these little details, and it turns out, yeah, it was just lifting weights, bro. You're such a dope. You're like, well, I can lift off the 15 different reasons why it's helpful beyond just getting muscles, but you're not really listening at this point anyway. And then you have the intellectual side, and that's all this shit that everybody loves on Twitter. And that's why there's nothing but alpha males on Twitter and YouTube, but they fuck up their lives because they don't work out. They don't have their emotions in check. But, they read a lot of books. Like the Abu American, if he had his emotions in check, me doing a little shit posting about Islam wouldn't have thrown him into a tizzy. Or one of the 500 women that have been online, it's like, this guy's an asshole. Those chicks wouldn't exist if they have any little bit of frame. Because even my most acrimonious, acrimonious, is that the word? Yeah, even my most I'm going to assume it is, acrimonious shit posts, most savage stuff ever, is still meant in jest. So if you can take it with a light heart, of course, it's funny as hell. But if you have no sense of humor, no emotional control, yeah. So again, but then the intellectual side's good because you understand like truth versus fitness. That's an important thing. Or sex and violence, the reasons you're lost. There's all these like understandings and knowledge that you can add and apply to your life. But if you don't have the physical part of frame, you won't be able to keep your emotions in check. If you don't have the emotional part of it, then you're going to be, all of it fucking goes out the window once you get a little taste. That's why you get a lot of guys who are like red pilled this and red pilled that. And I don't want to call it the one account because I kind of like the guy, but I can always tell when he gets a girlfriend because he stops talking like red pilled truths. And then he starts talking about saving the West. I'm like, oh, fuck. He's got a girl again. I'm leaving the manosphere. This time's for real, guys. All right. Yeah, we just broke up back in the field. Let me tell you about women and hypergamy. And I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sakes, dude. I can't keep up. All right, we're switching from uppers now to downers. It's Porto season. The worst thing ever to happen, the teeth coloring. Porto. Then the last one is the emotional side. It's just like understanding why you have emotions, right? Oh, it is. It's easy. It's simple, but it's hard. It's not easy. It's simple. So then there's the emotional side. It's not just about being stoic. Stoic is like a cheap man's version of frame. People think stoic means it's not reactive, or they treat it like the what does the God teach me to have the serenity prayer? They treat it like the serenity prayer. Don't react unless I have to react. It's not the same thing. Sometimes emotions are a good thing. Dude, anger, one of the best social emotions out there. Like when you have somebody that's fucking with you and they're doing it on purpose and you don't like it, you can logically talk to them and they're not going to give a shit. But if you get angry, they're going to be like, oh, dude, he's like this close to punching me in the face. Maybe I need to back the fuck off. Now, you obviously can't do that for everything because if you're threatening violence with everything, you're just going to end up in jail. That's why alpha males always end up either in prison, dead, or special forces. Exactly, like an oak tree in a storm. So why do guys have feelings? What kind of feelings do guys have? What are the triggers that allow them to express it? What can you do about it? And what are healthier ways of dealing with it? How do I deal with my boundaries? How do I not let myself self-sabotage me because my ego thinks that all this self-improvement is for me, but I'm really doing it to try and win my wife back. And then she notices that I'm doing this validation-seeking behavior, and she nukes the whole thing. And now I have an existential crisis because Ryan told me to lift weights. Why am I not an alpha male with a wife now? Why did she still leave me? It's like, because she doesn't want to be pandered to. That's the last thing that girls want. They can't articulate it. They just know. They just react badly to it. That's all you need to know. What are the differences between men and women, hormonally, emotionally? And then once you kind of understand this, and then the intellectual side and the physical side, then you could start making like difficult life decisions for yourself because you have those base behaviors in check. You got the testosterone from working out, so that way your empathy is muted enough where you can make more rational decisions that are fitness-based, not truth-based. The intellectual side is so you have enough information that when you use your critical thinking skills, you're not just being an example of garbage in, garbage out. Or your emotional side where you realize no, I'm not going to try to sleep with my ex-wife because I just know emotionally I'm not going to be able to handle it, even though the sex is great, even though it keeps this gone. It's just going to make my life harder than it needs to be, and you just accept your failings as a meat puppet. And then bam, now you have your vision. Well, what do I want from vision? This is what I laugh on the book. Vision, and this is like a bit of a spoiler, vision is the smallest section of the book because it's the one that's the most individual. Like, I can't tell you what to have as a vision. I can't tell you what to want and value in your life. I can't tell you what you should believe, what you should value. It's not my place. Do you want to cheat on your wife because she's a cheating whore, but you want to keep your kids around anyway, so you just open up the marriage on your side and do your thing? It's not my place to judge. It's your place to judge. Well, what if she could do a lot of stuff, but if you make that decision, that's your vision, right? It doesn't have to be a good vision. It just has to be yours. So it's like the shortest section of the book. Leading people, mostly leading yourself, and then if others allow you to lead them, then some little things on that, but that's really about it. Yeah, exactly. Good for whom, bad for whom. A little bit of humble bragging in the chat. And so there's your value tetrahedron. And so I can't do it justice. I could do 500 of these podcasts and I still would only get through like about half the book. And even then, the book itself, I even admit in the book, it's not like an ending point. It's not the be all and end all of frame. It's basically an introduction to the process. It's not the end point. If I wanted to make it a full, complete thing of the process, it'd be as large as like Roman McClay's book and just as incoherent. At some point, you just have to cut it down. So what do we got here? One more shit talk. Who do we got? Let's try this one.
A bigger red flag than a white guy with a podcast. I'll wait.
I am not impressed. I will have you know, I'm like 80% white. The podcast is goddamn good, and I don't want you anyway. You got random Iroquois art and not art on your walls. You're not my type, sir. Or madam. I don't know, you're allowed to say any more? Women act as shitty as you let them. I mean, they do. It's just, they're reactive, right? I think a lot of guys miss that out when they talk about... And marketing, I get it. I do it myself. The whammon ain't shit thing. Like, I give you a little bit of a wink, which I always hate when movies do that, but I'm not a movie. I'm some stupid Z-list E-celebrity, so fuck it. Whatever. Yeah, women, if they can treat you shitty, they will. It's the same as guys. Guys fuck with you because you let them. So for a lot of guys, when they talk about how bad women act, assuming they're talking about, like, how bad they treat them, as opposed to, like, in the abstract, because I always have to separate actual female and male dynamics from, I read this on the internet on a blog, like that fucking guy. I'm like, fuck that guy. Don't talk to me about divorce rape until you've at least had sex twice. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. Is that so much to ask? Sleep with more girls than 8 in 10 years, or at least be married. So yeah, it tends to be, if you put up with a girl that's treating you shitty, they tend to get pretty irritated on it. How does he let me treat him this shitty? It's like, it's a subconscious thing, but, well, maybe he just didn't notice. I'll treat him shittier and shittier and shittier. And you keep putting up with it and you keep putting up with it. And then eventually it just becomes a normalization thing. They don't even think about it. It's like, why wouldn't I treat him shitty? It's all I've ever done. It's like my dog. He always goes to the counter and he always tries to look for food at the edge of the counter because 1 in 100 times he finds that food. And so he just keeps going back to that trough. And in the same way, every time a girl goes back to the counter, she sees you being a bitch. Of course she's going to treat you like a bitch. Then guys take the wrong lesson from that. Well, that means I got to yell and say, I love this line. Every guy does this line. Like, you can't talk to me that way. I'm like, she fucking did, dude. Well, you can't do that. How dare you? You're just going to live off an ultimatum now? Don't you ever talk to me like that again. Like, or what? Just skip to the or what part. All this talk about what you're going to do, just fucking do it. Well, I can't smack her. No, you shouldn't have to. That's the thing. If you have to resort to violence, you have no frame. In fact, it's probably like one of the hard and fast rules we've made. There is no greater loss of frame than having to resort to violence. Stomping your feet, having a temper tantrum, demanding somebody accommodate you without giving them any reason to. Incentives fucking matter, dude. How about this? You treat me like shit, I'm gone. And that's it. Well, what if I lose her? What if we break up? Like, that's kind of the point. If she treats you like shit, you don't want to be with her. I don't care how good the sex is. You'll find another one. One's just as good as another. That's the kind of attitude you have to have. And that's the thing. And I'm not just saying repeat the mantra like, oh, guy on the internet told me to leave you if you fucking step out of line for the most flippant of reasons. It's like, no. By saying, if you cross the line, I'm fucking out of here. what you're doing is you change your behavior beforehand. In the same way that that guy wants to fight you, but you're like, I outweigh that guy by like 50 pounds, but he's gonna bite a chunk out of my leg. I'm not fucking with him. And you can just tell, like, that kid's crazy. I'm not fucking with him. Same thing. Same thing here. This man, if I ever treated him the way that that chick treated her husband, he's definitely leaving me. So I just won't treat him like that. It's an incentive thing, right? Or a deterrent. A deterrent. So the more likely you are to enforce your boundaries, the less you're going to have to, because everything you say, everything you do, all your body language, it's all congruent with the don't fuck with me, walk soft, carry a big stick kind of attitude, you know? And that's great, because you know what happens then? By your willingness to be a complete asshole, nobody ever tests you on being an asshole, and then you end up never having to be one. As opposed to the guy who's not an asshole, he's a good guy, gets treated like a bitch all the time until finally the only way he has to stand up for himself is to become a complete asshole. And then because he's obviously not attractive anyway, they'll rake him under the coals, divorce rape him, all that shit. Look at that. Evil misogynist learned from Rolo how to be this fucking thing. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sakes, lady. Yeah. And that's how you get there. So this is the pre-Christmas book release frame podcast. Let me put the timestamps in. If you guys are catching on late, you can follow on the old topics if you want to. Separated properly in the chat with perfect timestamps, because why wouldn't you do that? And then we'll do some bantz. What are we at for time? 1:41. B-A-N-T-Z. Bantz, baby. Okay, guys, we got a few minutes. Then I'm gonna go get some breakfast, and then we're gonna go do some Rule Zero. Is there anything in your book for Frame when she is depressed or has a kid, special circumstances? There's nothing about other people in it. See, Brett, and I don't mean to single you out on this one. There's no she in it. There's only you. There's you. Is Troy going to hold Frame on Rule 0? Well, I don't know. We'll find out. I'm assuming so. He should be all right about this. Yeah. It's never, and that's the one thing you have to learn with Frame. It's never about the other person. There is no special circumstances. There is no, well, what if she does this? It's like, it's not reactive. You have your frame. She can enter it, and if she's not in your frame, it's either amusing, intriguing, or funny. So in this case, why is she depressed? Why is there a kid with special circumstances? Why is this your problem, right? Everything has to come back to you. And I hate that I have to explain narcissism to men, but that's where we are, man. That's where we are. When she cries, I can't help but think about Esther. Oh yeah, Valar, that angry little feminist. Are you going to add summaries of your new books to the sidebar series? Well, I mean, it's not on the sidebar, so probably not, but I actually did have that thought too. I'm like, fuck, this is really something that should be on the sidebar, but at the same time, I have like a conflict of interest where I'm like, hey guys, sell my book on the sidebar of this subreddit with 50,000 people. I may have a talk with the mods, and then they can decide what they want, but we'll see. Yeah. The way Troy responds to comments might be my favorite out of all of you. Oh, I can bet. Anyways, what else do we got here? Give me something funny. Yeah, it doesn't matter. There's no exceptions. People are people. I guess one of the easy ways to do it is when you talk to somebody about their life and they use more she statements than I statements. There's an example of somebody who needs frame, right? Because they can't even describe their life from their own perspective. They always have to describe it from somebody else's perspective. The protagonist is a little whammon or something like that, right? And it's great because there's like, I could sum this up in 5 different pithy tweets. But the problem is that really skips out on the depth of this. I'm actually surprised how much depth there is in just like a, fuck it, bro, you do you, you know? But that's where we're at. Play hard to keep. Well, you're not playing. That's the other thing, man. It's not playing. Like, this is it. Like, that's you. There's no pomp, no circumstance, no deception, no nothing. Like, you don't have to lie to people. If you have to lie to somebody, that's because ultimately you want their validation. If you don't want them to know something, you just say it's none of your business. I just won't tell you. It's not your job to know that. We aren't there yet. No. Don't ask. Do you really want to know? Shit like that, right? And that's the frame. I know it sounds like, oh, you're just being a good guy and just reframing as like, you're just going to be a good man who never lies and treats women bad. It's like, no, that's not it. The devil is in the details. Yes, I get it. It's the same behavior, but there's a difference between coming at it from like a validation seeking, you know, good little boy attitude and one where it's just like, it's none of your fucking business. How about that? If you want to learn, what's in it for me by me telling you what you want to know? You know, little things like that. And you're not being a dick about it. It's just like gravity. Somebody's like, I'm going to jump off the roof with this umbrella. You're like, you're going to break your leg. Like, it's that level of matter of fact is the way you're describing it. Anywho, that's all I got for you. Go away now. Ugh. No, hope it's fun. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. We're going to make one more chance to see if the Rule Zero guys have bothered to set up their redirects. Here goes nothing. Still not. Oh, well, we'll get them next time. Have fun, boys. I'll catch you in a little bit. Oh, wait. Yeah, let's do it proper. Where is the music? Ooh, that sounds horrible. Oh, that's why. The stupid, There, try it now.